So everybody, just wanted to thank everybody for coming out tonight. We're really excited to have you all here and appreciate just that you've taken your evening to come hang out with us and just learn more about our project. So my name's Aaron Stanley. I'm going to hand off to Caroline Lynch here, who is our senior public policy advisor. So she has actually or maybe she's not senior, maybe she's public, inflating her title a bit, but.
I'll take it.
But so Carolyn's a Capitol Hill veteran, 15 years, has a really kind of unique understanding of just how the public policy process works and how that has potential impacts on the crypto and blockchain space. So we're really excited to hear more from her vantage point.
Thank you, Aaron. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. It's such a great turnout. My name is Caroline Lynch. I operate a consulting firm, Copper Hill Strategies, and Copper Hill Strategies is an alliance partner of Sweetbridge, and in that capacity, I advise Sweetbridge on state and federal government relations and compliance matters. A couple of points I just wanted to raise, starting with the fact that there really is no comprehensive blockchain body of law. What we have right now is a smattering of laws, both federal and state, that to varying degrees apply to blockchain development and apply to cryptocurrencies or digital tokens. And there is no one federal agency or state agency that has jurisdiction over blockchain and cryptocurrency. And in fact, there are upwards of 50 plus jurisdictions that US innovators must respond to, and over 50 jurisdictions of laws that US innovators must comply with. But more importantly, there isn't consensus amongst those jurisdictions about how to address cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. Nor is there agreement about what the purpose of these regulations should be. For instance, is the purpose of the regulation to prevent the expansion of the technology out of a concern for consumer fraud or terrorism financing? Or is the purpose of the legislation to promote its development and to expand the use of blockchain and cryptocurrency in the United States? And lastly, there's no consensus on definitions for how to define the technology that we're talking about today. So let's start with jurisdiction. So just at the federal level, here are an example of some of the agencies that have exerted jurisdiction over blockchain and cryptocurrency, or in some respects have cautioned investors about and customers about purchasing tokens or engaging in cryptocurrency markets. So as many of you probably know, the Securities and Exchange Commission has said that token sales may be security offerings for the purposes of the securities laws. But beyond that, they haven't really provided any guidance as to the instances in which a token sale may not be a securities offering. Innovators are left grappling with whether the token that they're developing to operate on a blockchain is a security under the federal securities laws, and then if so, what regulations they must comply with in order to provide those tokens to US customers. But on the other hand, the CFTC has taken really a different approach from the SEC and has been more welcoming to innovators through the creation of what is called the Lab CFTC. The Lab CFTC is intended to be a conduit between the CFTC and blockchain innovators in the United States to allow for innovators to get clarity from the CFTC regarding the application of the laws to the products that they're developing. The Treasury Department, both through the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, and the OCC, has asserted jurisdiction for the purposes of anti-money laundering laws, particularly something called the Bank Secrecy Act. The IRS, as I'm sure many of you know, has classified cryptocurrency or virtual currency as property. And then other agencies like the Federal Reserve, the CFPB, and the FTC have in recent years issued guidance cautioning US customers about purchasing cryptocurrencies or engaging in blockchain products. And one of the challenges that innovators face right now is Amongst the agencies that have asserted jurisdiction at the federal level, to a certain extent, they've all classified virtual currency or cryptocurrency differently. So the SEC is telling folks in the United States that cryptocurrency is a security, while the CFTC says it's a commodity. The IRS has classified cryptocurrency as real property for the purposes of income tax reporting, while FinCEN has classified cryptocurrency as a currency for the purposes of money transmitter licensing. From an innovator's standpoint and from a customer's standpoint, it's a challenge to know exactly what role you play in the US economy, what requirements you must adhere to, and what status you hold from one regulator to the next. And what this map is showing you is the current state of play of state money transmitter laws. In addition to the US Treasury, every state, or almost every state, has enacted money transmitter licensing laws. As a result of the Treasury Department's ruling that virtual currency is currency, innovators must now look to the state laws as well to determine whether they are required to also get a license in each state as a money transmitter. This is an incredible regulatory and resource burden for innovators that are coming onto the market that may have to obtain a ruling from every jurisdiction as to their status and then engage in the licensing process in every jurisdiction. And before anybody points it out, I acknowledge that adds up to 57. And the reason why there's 57 different states denoted there is that down at the bottom where it says MTL Compact, just a few weeks ago, 7 states entered into what's called an interstate compact, an agreement amongst themselves to allow for the first time in about 15 years that money transmitter laws have been on the books, reciprocity between the states, so that if you obtain a license in one state, one of those 7 states, that license will be honored in the other 6 states. The problem is that of those 7 states, not all 7 states actually agree as to whether to treat cryptocurrency innovators as money transmitters for the purposes of their state law. So while there's a step forward in reciprocity amongst money transmitter laws in these 7 states don't yet agree on whether there will be reciprocity and to what extent that reciprocity will be given when it comes to cryptocurrency innovators. But as you can see, for innovators who are trying to launch their products in the United States, there is no consensus amongst the states about how cryptocurrencies should be treated under money transmitter laws, creating yet another layer of uncertainty and another resource drain for companies that wish to market their products here in the United States. We talked a little bit about purpose. What's the purpose of the legislation or the regulation that is being considered? And here's an example of legislation that's currently pending in the House or the Senate here in Washington, D.C. And I put these up here to just give you an example of what some of the motives are, or what are some of the beliefs that the authors of these bills have about cryptocurrency and blockchain. So for example, the first one, H.R. 2433, the Homeland Security Assessment, Terrorists' Use of Virtual Currencies Act. The focus of that legislation comes from a belief that virtual currencies or cryptocurrency are primarily a function of terrorism financing or criminal activity. But then let's look at the bill right below it, H.R. 3708, to amend the Internal Revenue Code. This is to adjust for gross income de minimis gains from certain exchanges of virtual currencies. This is legislation that's actually trying to help those who purchase and trade in cryptocurrency with how they report the exchange rate that they encounter when they make a sale or a purchase, sponsored by members of Congress who want to see this innovation expand and see it grow. And the list goes on and on. But at this point still, primarily on Capitol Hill, the view of cryptocurrency is one of suspicion. The view of cryptocurrency is one that of again, terrorism financing, or it's primarily being used for Silk Road investigations or Silk Road operations on tour to do drug trafficking, and that it doesn't have a lawful or altruistic purpose. Lastly, definitions. Just in those few bills that I pointed out, some of the legislation uses the term virtual currency. Some of the legislation uses the term digital currency. Some of the legislation tries to define the term, other legislation doesn't. And so one of the things that regulators and lawmakers are going to need to do as they try to build toward a consensus in the United States of how to regulate cryptocurrency and blockchain technology is also just have a clear understanding of exactly what it is that they are intending to regulate and exactly how they hope to define it. And until that happens, we won't have a comprehensive approach to blockchain regulation in the United States. What innovators want more than anything else is to understand what the rules of the road are. They want to know what laws they need to comply with, what's required of them, but they also want to be able to provide their products here in the United States. And for the first time in over a century, the United States is not the front runner in innovation. The United States is falling significantly behind many of other countries in the world that are embracing the technology and are designing their laws and regulations to allow innovators to come into their country to test their products, to expand this innovation. I think that the first task that innovators have is that they need to educate lawmakers and regulators about what the true potential of this technology is, what their products are that they're offering to US customers, and how those can dramatically change the economy. We can then determine what regulation best suits each of the different products, because as we all know, no two tokens are alike, and every token is really different from one to the next, and every blockchain project serves a different purpose or provides a different kind of economic benefit depending on its design. And from there, we'll actually be able to promote the innovation of this technology here in the United States. And in the absence of that, I think we'll see a significant number of innovators, or all innovators, ultimately leave the United States for jurisdictions where they'll be welcomed.